Paradise must be won. Paradise must be won. Each day and each night, through darkness and through light, cry it out to the world. Spread the word. Spread the word of Islam.
ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل? When the Abraha's army came with the elephant, ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just sent some birds, small birds, carrying small stones, ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. And every stone would come to the head of a person and would burn him throughout all his body. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used these birds as soldiers to destroy the army. Let me tell you this true story of one of my professors. He said that he went to Nigeria as a guest. He was invited by very VIP's people, the Minister of Religious Affairs. Then after he stayed few days there, he wanted to go back. The minister could not have time to go with him to the airport. He went to the airport and he found his seat was taken. Wow. Any corruption, Sheikh? Administrative corruption. Anyway, he was very upset. He was in the airport. He insisted that of course, the flight took off. And he insisted that the minister would come and investigate the matter. The minister came and to the airport and he started investigating the matter and causing some problems to the people, right, who made corruption. And while they were in the airport, after almost 35 minutes, they got the news that the airplanes was crashed. How many times these things happen in our life? Plenty of times. Plenty of times. You think that this is something good. You are fighting for it. You want to get there very quickly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want this to happen for whatever reason, a reason that you don't know. Then all of a sudden you discover after that the wisdom of that. Some of those people who died, how many people who are having very critical and serious disease, they wish to die and they cannot die? If you ask a person who has a very difficult state of cancer, he wishes death, but he cannot even get death until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. Sometimes death is mercy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that these two people or three people who are standing here or sitting here, when they grow up, they will become very bad people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want them to be bad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prefers to kill them in a hurricane or a tsunami or a Katrina or whatever incident, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want them to reach this level of corruption. Is it mercy or not? It is mercy. That's why last time I told you the most repetitive name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's mentioned in the Quran is Al-Alim, the all-knowing. He knows everything. What will happen to me after 5 minutes? What will happen after 5 days? What will happen for anything in the world? Whether this will break or not, whether he will stand or not, whether he will drink or not, everything that is going to happen in the universe, Allah knows it. Because of his wisdom, he stops things from happening. Not only now, this was written and decreed long ago before any one of us created. And then you ask yourself, we will die. All of us will die, whether we like it or not. But it's just a difference of the way that we die. Some of us will die on bed. Some of us will die in front of the air conditions. Some of us will die drowning. Some of us will die because of sickness. Each one of us will die differently. Who decides? You or he? He. He is the one who decides. This is how we understand how calamities happen to us and the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala behind this. And no one has the right to question Allah. Why are you doing this? There will be one day that all human beings will die. At the end of the world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a wind, right, to take the souls of the good believers. Then the hour will take place on all the left human beings, which will be the worst terrible situation. I'll stop here, and I hope we know that and at least the lesson that we get from today is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Qadir. And that's what we say when we say Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater, not just the greatest, by the way, is greater than anything. In comparative degree in the language, you say greater than. Than what? You fill it. You put any word after that. Any word that you can think of, you can put it. Allah is greater than anything. Any word that you can imagine, you can put it there, and it works very well. In other words, Allah is the greatest. So you have to understand this. Secondly, you have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does things on the earth by wisdom and by knowledge. He's all wise. And wisdom in the language means what? Means that you do the right thing at the right time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selects things to happen exactly at certain times because He knows the wisdom behind that. And again, you should know that everything in the creation of Allah is a soldier that can be used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to achieve some of the things that He wants to happen. Now it's time for questions and answers. Probably you got some regulations, or you can get the regulations again. You're going to hear the regulation. I hope you stick by them, and I hope inshallah you benefit from that. جزاكم الله خيرا وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Jazakallah khair for that lecture, inshallah. It was, mashallah, more than even I expected, inshallah. And it was refreshing and opening, inshallah, to give us the dhikr of what Allah, inshallah, has for us in the creation and the way that Allah controls His creation. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, there are a few instructions which I must give to you before we start question and answers. The first instruction that I must give to you is, we prefer that you, the Muslims, inshallah, here in our audience, allow the non-Muslims to ask questions. We prefer to take questions from non-Muslims. So if there are any non-Muslims in our audience today, we would actually prefer that you come to the microphones, inshallah, and put forth your questions, your statements, or your criticisms, inshallah, for our scholars. Our Muslim brothers and sisters here, they have many opportunities in order to get answers and to clarify misconceptions which you don't have. So we make this opportunity for you, inshallah. At this time, inshallah, I'll begin by starting with the sister section. Sister, could you please state your name and your occupation before stating your question?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shamsunisa. I'm a government employee. So you talked about corruption. In India, wherever we go to get a seat, the medicine seat or engineering seat, we have to pay corruption. We have to give some amount. Then only we used to get the seat. So the entire system is corrupt. What is the remedy for that? You said corruption will bring calamity.
Can you repeat the question?
Her question is based on when you want to get a seat. And I'm not sure if that's in a school or on an airplane or whatever, but she said that you have to pay some kind of a fee or a bribe, bakshish, in order to get through. So she's talking about corruption. And she said, what's the remedy for that corruption?
Yeah. By the way, first of all, if there's corruption, we need group of people to make da'wah to others to fix the society. If you are paying some bribes, as some scholars say, if you pay it for taking your own right, it's okay. But if you're taking it that this will affect the rights of others, right, this is considered haram. If you're using your money to take your right because this is the only way that you can do your work, it's fine. But if you are doing it to take the rights of others, right, this would be haram. For example, you are booking a ticket for traveling, and the agent who serves you tells you that the flight is full. And if you tell him, like, why don't you try to kick this passenger out and give me his seat, right? And you bribe him for that, this is considered definitely haram because you are taking the rights of others. But if you're taking your own right only by this way, this is the no other way you can get your right, so you can do it. Allahu a'lam. This is what some scholars say about this issue. But at the same time, you should make da'wah to increase this. But again, this is one form of corruption that we see it. And then after some time when a calamity happens, we say, why did this calamity take place? It's because of the things that we are practicing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Halim. Al-Halim means the one who delays his punishment. So he waits a day after a day after a day after a day until he decides that he is going to punish. He does not punish immediately. Again, this is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but don't abuse it. It does not mean that Allah does not see you. It does not mean that Allah is not capable of punishing you, but it means that this is a quality of Allah, that He is the most patient and the one who delays His punishment. In fact, some scholars say, even some of the companions say, that Al-Halim is probably the greatest name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Although some others say that He is Al-Qayyum. There's difference of scholars in this, but it is one of the greatest quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He is Al-Halim. So we should not abuse this issue. Okay.
Thank you for the question, sister. Inshallah, we'll go to the men's side now. Brother, could you please state your name and occupation and briefly state your question?
Assalamu alaikum. I am Riaz Ahmad, Deputy Superintendent of Salt in Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Shaitan is also the tool of Allah. He disobeyed Allah and refused to prostrate Adam al-Islam. Please explain.
Is this relevant to our topic? This one.
Shaitan, a soldier of Allah. He is part of the creation.
Yes, he disobeyed Allah. And Allah kicked him. He disobeyed and he was punished. But he has a job on this earth. He tempts people. He persuades people. Yes. It does not mean that we should follow him. This is his task on the earth. We mentioned that the soldiers of Allah can be the angels, can be the jinn, as Ibn Mas'ud explained, can be the human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses you to do something to this person. Something whether it's good or bad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses you. Allah uses you to become a pharmacist to benefit people in the field of pharmacy. So you are a soldier of Allah. By the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the jinns, all of them, right, to achieve something that should be done. So he's a soldier of Allah. You want him to be a soldier, you don't want him to be a soldier. You don't want him to be a soldier? We cannot say that if Allah decrees something, we say what? Sami'na wa ata'na. If Allah decides something, we have no power to tell Allah do this or not to do this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay.
We will not be misled and we will be in the right direction.
No. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no, this is not true. He does an act, right? And the shaitan on the day of judgment will say to Allah, I did not force anyone. I just invited them to do it. And they are the one who came to me. I have no power to force them. I just invited them. Why don't you come and drink some alcohol with me? The shaitan would say that and leave you alone. How many of us respond and how many of us don't respond? Alhamdulillah, we Muslims don't respond to this. Inshallah. Okay, so it is a way to see the person who can resist and who cannot resist, to see the good person from the bad person. I remind you that all the time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, إِنَّ كَيْدَ الشَّيْطَانِ كَانَ ضَعِيفًا. The plotting and the planning of the shaitan is weak. But it is because we are weak, we may be tempted. But if we are strong, we can resist. And I think there's a whole lecture about the shaitan. Thank you for the question.
Okay. That was a very interesting question, and I'd like some clarification, but I'll come to the side of the stage later, inshallah. Sisters, you have a question? Could you please state your name and occupation?
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum.
This question again is on behalf of another sister. The question is, Allah definitely controls our heart, but what about the criteria He gives to mankind between right and wrong?
What are the criterion?
Yes, what are the criteria He gives to mankind between right and wrong?
Okay. Thank you. This is a very good question. It's the whole issue of the Quran, right, is about the right and the wrong, the do's and don'ts. I said in the last lecture that there are three main themes of the Quran. One main category, one main theme in the Quran is the rulings. What's good, what's bad, what's halal, what's haram. These are the criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's many manifestation and application by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to illustrate this. For example, wine, drinking wine, is it legal or illegal? Is it halal or haram? According to the Islamic perspective, this is the haram thing. This is the bad criteria. If you do it, you are in trouble. So these are the things that are written in the Quran that tells us this is the good and this is the bad, the criteria. In fact, one of the names of the Quran is Al-Furqan. One of the names of Al-Quran, you know that the Quran has many names. Al-Quran, Al-Kitab, Al-Furqan, Al-Tanzil. It has many names and attributes. One of the names is Al-Furqan, which means, one of the meanings of it is the criterion. Gives you the criterion of the right and the wrong. The whole issue about the Quran is about that. Okay, I hope I answered the question.
We'll now take a question from the brother's side, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed. I'm doing my +2. Just want to know what is the exact definition of soldier of Allah?
The word junud, as I said, the word junud had been defined by Ibn Abbas, had been explained by Ibn Abbas, right? And this means that the companions agreed to this, radiallahu anhum. He said that the angels and the jinn and the humans, right? Some others from the verses of the Quran, when you see the context of ayat, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the wind, for example, and he would say, وَلِلَّهِ جُنُودُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So it is considered one of them. So everything, that's why it came to this broader definition. Everything in the universe is a soldier of Allah, can be used by Allah. I mentioned this a couple of times in the lecture. Jazakallah khair.
Shukran for the question. Now we are back to the sister side, inshallah. Sister, could you please state your name and occupation?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
This is a question from the sisters among the audience. She says that you said that when the soldiers surrounded Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's house, he put the sand on the heads of the soldiers and they slept. But she says that she saw in the workshop that when they said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to recite Surah Yasin and blow on the soldiers.
Good.
So she just wants to know.
Okay. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ did not put not the sand on them to sleep. The Prophet ﷺ, while he was going out, he recited parts of Surah Yasin. They were sleeping. He recited this, and then he put this. Probably her story is more correct, wallahu a'lam, but this is the story that we read in the Seerah. Yes, but you may find more than one story about it. But yes, he recited part of Surah Yasin while he was out. Absolutely correct. Jazakallahu khayran. I just didn't want to go into the details of the story because the focus was on the issue of sleeping, that they were sleeping. And sleeping is used now as a tool and as a soldier of Allah. That's why the focus was there. Yes.
Okay, brother, could you please state your name and state your occupation, inshallah?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.
I'm Abdul Hadi and I'm a student. And my question is related to the barrier which Allah creates between his heart and the individual. And my question is related to that barrier. Will that barrier prevent us from doing sins or from doing good deeds? So is it a test for an individual? Like every time we do a sin, we don't realize that it is a sin. Then after we realize suddenly that, why did we do that? A bit elaboration about that barrier Allah creates.
The barrier which Allah places between the heart and the person. That barrier sometimes can cut you off from realizing you're committing a sin. Now once you realize it, and you realize that it wasn't something you intended to do, but that barrier, is that barrier something that's preventing?
It's not really a real barrier that you will see something here. But it says that you should know that Allah can prevent you from doing what your mind or what your brain wants. Tells you, it shows you the ability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to understand this. In other words, you should always be a good person doing good things. And you should understand that this is in the capacity of Allah. When you believe in Allah, you believe that He is capable of preventing you from doing some of the things, whether they are good or bad. Allah have the will. But usually you have to understand that one quality of Allah, that Allah never ever initiates something bad. Allah all the time initiates things that are good. But it is the humans who do the bad things. If they do the bad things, Allah may punish them by making them continue these bad things that they do. But Allah does not initiate anything bad in the beginning. Wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best.
Jazakallah khair, inshallah. This is going to be the last question of the evening, inshallah. It'll be coming from the sister side. Sister, could you please state your name and occupation?
Assalamu alaikum. This is on behalf of another sister. Brother, you said a child is killed by Allah's wisdom because in future he will do mischief. But Allah writes his death while he was in his mother's womb. So how can we say that because he will do mischief, he was being taken away by Allah?
The wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you read Surah Al-Kahf, I wish that you can read Surah Al-Kahf. There are many stories mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf that shows the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something. For example, yes, I would tell you something, yeah. A person may die and his father may have left for him or might have left a fortune for him. But for some reasons, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want to make this child know when he is young that this fortune is left for him. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps it a secret by any means until the child grows and he knows that he has this money and he starts using it. Because if he uses it when he is young, of course he may abuse the wealth. So there are some wisdoms that we don't see, but we can see later on. We can see later on, right? A child is born with a limb that is paralyzed, right? We don't know that it was in the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He decreed that he will be this because it's in his predestiny that he knew that when he grows up, he will use a car and he will accelerate the car and he will make an accident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not want him to do this because he's supposed to kill. So for the reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want this to happen. Okay, so everything happens is a wisdom of Allah.
Spread the word, oh man. Spread the word of Islam. Oh, fortunate one. Paradise must be won. Paradise must be won. Each day and each night. Through darkness and through light. Cry it out to the world. Spread the word.